There are some changes that come after the age of 60, not with noise or warning, but so quietly that many people only notice them after they have already become part of everyday life. You walk into the kitchen and suddenly forget what you came there to get. You pick up your phone, but it takes a few seconds to remember who you were about to call. You look at a familiar line of text and have to squint longer than you used to before you can read it clearly. And what worries people most is not simply the feeling of getting older, but the feeling that they may be slowly losing the clarity and sharpness that once shaped their daily lives. But here is what I want to tell you right from the beginning. The brain and the eyes do not weaken because of age alone. Very often, they are also being quietly affected by chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, poor circulation, shallow sleep, and even the small daily habits we repeat without much thought. The good news is that the body still responds when you begin caring for it the right way. Sometimes that support does not begin with anything expensive or complicated, but simply with the right cup of tea at the right time of day. In this video, we are going to walk through 6 teas that may support brain health and visual function in older adults, ranked from more basic support to more powerful benefits. But do not assume this is just another general list of drinks that are good for your health. What makes this interesting is that each tea on today's list works through a very different mechanism inside the body. Some are more focused on circulation, some stand out for their anti-inflammatory properties, some help improve mental alertness, and some have even been studied for their potential to protect both memory and aging eyes. And as we move toward the end of the list, you may come across one name you once underestimated, but that may actually be far more valuable than its familiar appearance suggests. Number 6. Hibiscus tea. If I had to choose one tea to open this list, I would choose hibiscus tea. Not because it is the strongest one, and not because it creates a noticeably sharper sense of alertness after just a few cups, but because for many people over 60, what the body needs first is usually not a strong boost for the brain, but a more foundational kind of support, gentle, steady, and sustainable. Many people still think that worsening memory or gradually blurrier vision is simply part of aging. But in reality, behind those changes, there is often a quieter issue at work. The vascular system is no longer functioning as efficiently as it once did. The brain and the eyes are both organs that depend heavily on healthy circulation. The brain needs a stable blood supply to deliver oxygen and nutrients to every nerve cell. The retina in the eye is the same. It is highly sensitive tissue with a high energy demand, so when microcirculation begins to decline, it is often affected fairly early. And that is exactly why hibiscus tea deserves a place on this list. Hibiscus tea has its distinctive deep red color because it contains anthocyanins, a group of natural antioxidants also found in dark-colored berries. In addition, it provides a range of polyphenols that help the body fight oxidative stress, one of the factors that contributes to cellular aging, including the aging of nerve cells and eye cells. Put simply, when the body is exposed to too much oxidative damage over a long period of time, tissues begin to wear down more quickly. And that often shows up outwardly as slower memory, a mind that no longer feels as sharp as it once did, or eyes that become tired more easily and blur more quickly during reading. What is even more noteworthy is that hibiscus is also often mentioned in research related to blood pressure. Some studies in adults suggest that hibiscus may help support healthier blood pressure levels when used consistently. This matters more than many people realize. When high blood pressure persists over time, the walls of the blood vessels are placed under greater strain, which can affect the small, thin, delicate vessels, especially those in the brain and the eyes. In other words, a tea does not have to directly make you smarter or sharpen your vision overnight to be valuable. If it helps reduce the burden on the vascular system, that alone can provide an important foundation for long-term health. I remember Linda, age 68, who once said she did not turn to hibiscus tea for memory or eye support at first. She simply wanted to replace her afternoon soda with something a little gentler. But after a few weeks, what she noticed was not a miracle, it was a series of small but very real changes. Her body felt less heavy after meals, she felt less drained in the afternoon, and she also felt that she was finally doing something kind for her health instead of continuing to indulge old habits. And that is exactly how I want you to think about hibiscus tea. It may not be the most powerful tea on today's list for memory or vision, but it is like repairing the foundation before trying to renovate the whole house. When circulation, blood pressure, and oxidative stress are supported in a more positive direction, the brain and the eyes have a better chance to function more steadily day after day. And sometimes, especially for older adults, real change does not begin with something dramatic. It begins with one small choice, simple enough to repeat every day, but wise enough that your body will quietly thank you for it later. Number 5. Ginger tea. When we are younger, the body can tolerate quite a lot. Nights of poor sleep, irregular meals, too little movement, or even long periods of stress. But as we get older, that ability to adapt is no longer as strong as it once was. Many older adults begin to feel that their bodies are clearly slowing down. They wake up more slowly in the morning, their hands and feet get cold more easily, digestion becomes sluggish, and the mind does not necessarily feel forgetful in an obvious way, but rather as if it is covered by a light fog. Thinking becomes slower, reactions become slower, and concentration becomes harder. It is the kind of fatigue that is not dramatic, but persistent and quietly draining, reducing quality of life little by little. And ginger tea is especially well suited to that kind of body. The most notable compounds in ginger are gingerols and shogaols, bioactive substances that have been studied quite extensively for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. That may sound technical, but here is the simple way to understand it. In older adults, a state of low-grade chronic inflammation is very common. It does not cause intense pain or obvious flare-ups, but it quietly contributes to many age-related changes, from blood vessels becoming less flexible, to joints feeling stiffer, to the brain functioning more slowly, and even the eyes becoming more vulnerable to oxidative stress. Ginger is not a highly specialized tea that targets memory or vision alone. Its strength lies somewhere else. It helps the body function more smoothly overall. When circulation is better supported, when digestion becomes less sluggish, and when that heavy cold feeling in the body begins to ease, many people notice that their minds start to feel better too. Not in the sharp, overstimulated way that comes from stimulants, but in the sense that the body feels more open and flowing, and as a result, the mind feels a little clearer as well. This is especially important to understand after age 60. The brain does not function separately from the rest of the body. Sluggish digestion, constant fatigue, and less than ideal circulation can all pull mental performance downward. And because the eyes also depend on healthy blood flow and a strong antioxidant environment, supporting the whole body in a gentle way through something like ginger tea can still have very practical value. Another great thing about ginger tea is how easy it is to use in everyday life. It is easy to drink, easy to build into a morning routine or enjoy after meals, and especially well suited to people who often feel bloated, have a cold stomach, or feel heavy after eating. For many older adults, simply replacing a sugary drink or an overly strong cup of coffee with a warm cup of ginger tea is already a positive shift. That is why placing ginger tea at rank number 5 makes perfect sense. It may not be the strongest choice if your goal is to target memory more directly or focus on more specialized mechanisms related to eye health. But it is an excellent first step tea, helping the body become less sluggish, easing silent inflammation, and reducing the heaviness that quietly drains daily energy. And sometimes, before older adults can begin thinking about remembering better or seeing more clearly, what they really need is to feel that their bodies are functioning more comfortably, lighter, warmer, and more alive from within. Ginger tea is not flashy, but it does that job remarkably well. Number 4. Turmeric tea. This is the part many people over 60 do not always see clearly. They only notice the final result. The mind no longer feels as sharp as it once did. Concentration begins to slip. The eyes grow tired after reading for a while, and even after waking up in the morning, the mind still feels cloudy. But beneath those outward signs, the body has often spent years being worn down by quiet internal processes. Inflammation does not always look like visible swelling or obvious pain. Very often, it exists at a low level for a long time, creating almost no immediate alarm while slowly damaging nerve cells, blood vessels, and sensitive tissues, such as the retina, little by little. That is exactly why turmeric has drawn so much attention from researchers over the years. The most notable active compound in turmeric is curcumin. This is a natural substance that has been widely studied for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. In simple terms, curcumin acts like a kind of protective cushion, helping the body reduce some of the impact of inflammation and oxidative stress, two factors closely linked to cognitive decline and the aging of the eyes. For the brain, this is especially important because nerve cells are highly vulnerable to accumulated damage over time. And for the eyes, especially the retina, this matters as well, because it is a tissue with extremely high metabolic demand, making it even more vulnerable when free radicals and chronic inflammation continue to rise. Some recent research reviews suggest that curcumin may have potential in supporting certain aspects of cognitive function, including memory and information processing in adults. In terms of vision, researchers are also increasingly interested in curcumin's potential to help protect retinal cells from inflammation-related and oxidative damage. Of course, it is important to say this honestly. Turmeric tea is not a medical treatment, and curcumin's real-world effects still depend on dosage, preparation, and how well the body absorbs it. But from the standpoint of building a healthy long-term habit, it remains a very worthwhile option to consider. Maria, age 70, did not start drinking turmeric tea because of memory or eye health. She simply wanted something that would help her body feel less heavy in the morning. But after some time, what stood out to her most was that her mind felt less sluggish. She said she could not call it a dramatic change, but it was noticeable enough that she wanted to keep going. Her mind felt a little clearer in the morning, her body felt a little less weighed down, and she no longer felt quite as dragged down by the quiet fatigue that had built up over time. I really like that perspective because it is realistic. Turmeric tea is not the kind of tea that delivers an instant effect like a sudden burst of alertness. Its value lies somewhere deeper. It quietly helps the body push back against the forces that are wearing it down from within. And in later life, sometimes what matters most is not the feeling of suddenly coming alive in a single day, but the ability to slow the downward slide little by little. Moving into rank number 3, we come to a name that feels much more familiar: green tea. But perhaps because it is so familiar, many people tend to underestimate it. They think of green tea as just a light, refreshing drink that is generally good for health. And yet, when you look at it more closely from the perspective of brain health and vision, green tea turns out to be one of the most scientifically grounded and well-balanced choices on this entire list. What makes green tea stand out is not a single active compound, but the remarkably intelligent combination of several natural components. The most notable are catechins, especially EGCG, a widely studied antioxidant. It also contains L-theanine, along with a moderate amount of caffeine. Together, this trio creates a very distinctive effect. It helps the mind feel more alert, but in a gentler way. It improves attention, but without being overly stimulating. It helps you feel more mentally clear, but with less of the jittery feeling that often comes with stronger stimulants. This is especially valuable for people over 60. At this stage of life, many people no longer respond well to a strong surge of stimulation. A bold cup of coffee can make the heart race, increase feelings of restlessness, and even interfere with sleep that night. And when sleep is disrupted, memory, concentration, and even the comfort of the eyes often suffer the next day. Green tea, when used appropriately, tends to offer a kind of support that is lighter but more sustainable. It does not push the nervous system too hard, but it still gives enough lift to help you feel more mentally present. From a brain health perspective, green tea is valued because it may support cognitive function in several ways at once. The moderate amount of caffeine can help improve alertness and attention. L-theanine is often recognized for promoting a state of calm focus, meaning the mind stays engaged without feeling overstimulated. Meanwhile, EGCG and other catechins help counter oxidative stress, one of the processes that gradually damages nerve cells with age. Put simply, green tea does not just help you feel more awake in the moment. It also has real value in helping protect cells over time. Green tea also offers a specific advantage for the eyes. Eye tissues, especially the retina and the lens, are highly vulnerable to accumulated oxidative damage. That is one reason the antioxidants in green tea are considered so noteworthy. They do not turn blurry vision into sharp vision overnight, but they do something quieter and more important. They help reduce the burden of damage that eye cells face over time. For older adults, that kind of support is very practical because many vision problems do not arise from one single event, but from wear and tear that builds up slowly over the years. There is another reason green tea deserves the number 3 spot: balance. It is not too narrowly focused on just one mechanism such as inflammation, nor is it only about circulation. It is the kind of tea that suits someone looking for a moderately comprehensive choice, something that can help lift mental clarity, support the body's antioxidant defenses, and offer a stronger scientific foundation than many remedies based mainly on word of mouth. And perhaps the best thing about green tea is the feeling it gives people, that they are still taking care of themselves in a very simple, approachable way. There is no need to begin with something unfamiliar, expensive, or difficult to maintain. All it takes is a habit gentle enough to stay with you every day, yet wise enough that over months and years, the body receives benefits that may not be obvious in a single morning, but become very real when you look back over the long run. Number 2, ginkgo tea. What unsettles many older adults most is the moment they realize they are starting to forget things that once felt completely familiar. The name of a close neighbor suddenly gets stuck on the tip of the tongue and will not come out. They stop in the middle of a sentence because they cannot remember what they were about to say next. They walk into a room, pause for a few seconds, and wonder why they went in there in the first place. On the surface, these may seem like small things, but when they happen again and again, they leave behind a heavy feeling, as if the mind is no longer as reliable as it used to be. And that is exactly why ginkgo is so often mentioned in conversations about memory. Ginkgo biloba has long drawn attention for its potential to support circulation, especially microcirculation, the flow of blood through the tiny vessels that nourish very sensitive tissues. This matters because both the brain and the eyes depend heavily on this delicate network of small blood vessels. The brain needs a steady blood supply to support the activity of billions of nerve cells. The retina is also one of the body's most metabolically active tissues, so when its nourishment is gradually affected over time, its function can decline as well. In addition, ginkgo contains flavonoids and terpenoids, compounds that have been studied for their antioxidant properties and their potential to help protect cells against age-related damage. With ginkgo, however, the truth is that the scientific evidence is not entirely consistent. Some large studies have found that ginkgo did not make a clearly significant difference in slowing cognitive decline in certain groups of older adults. On the other hand, some reviews and clinical trials have suggested that standardized ginkgo extract, when used at the right dose and for a sufficient length of time, may offer certain benefits for some people with mild cognitive impairment or mild dementia. In other words, this is not a miracle, but it is not a meaningless option either. It is a tea with real potential, especially when viewed in a balanced and realistic way. Helen, age 74, once said that what saddened her most was not that she had started walking more slowly, but that her mind no longer seemed to keep up with life. She often forgot things she had just planned to do, and sometimes while telling a story to her grandchild, she would suddenly lose her train of thought. Later, she became more serious about improving her sleep, walking more regularly, and adding a cup of ginkgo tea to her morning routine as part of a new habit. She did not say she became a different person after a few weeks, but she did say that on some days her mind felt more in gear, at the very least, less cloudy and less disconnected than before. I think that is the right way to view ginkgo tea. It should not be exaggerated as a miraculous solution for memory. But it does deserve respect because it speaks directly to what so many people are genuinely worried about. How to preserve mental clarity for longer, how to keep the mind from declining too quickly, and how to hold on to a sense of control over everyday life. Number 1. Matcha. This is perhaps the name that surprises the most people, because quite a few older viewers tend to think of matcha as a drink for younger people, for trendy cafes, or simply as a more fancy version of green tea. But when you look at matcha through the lens of nutrition and aging, especially in relation to the brain and vision, it becomes one of the most compelling choices on this list. The biggest difference with matcha lies in how it is consumed. With regular green tea, you steep the leaves in water and then discard them. With matcha, you consume the whole tea leaf after it has been finely ground into a powder. That means when you drink matcha, you are taking in a more complete range of the natural compounds found in the leaf. And that is exactly why matcha tends to deliver a higher concentration of active compounds, especially catechins such as EGCG, along with L-theanine and natural caffeine. It may sound similar to green tea, but matcha's effects are usually richer and more noticeable. The caffeine in matcha helps increase alertness and sustain attention. But if caffeine were the only factor, many people over 60 would be more likely to feel a fluttering heartbeat, mental tension, or a quick energy crash a few hours later. What makes matcha different is the presence of L-theanine, a natural amino acid often associated with a state of relaxed focus. In other words, matcha does not just help you stay awake, it helps you feel mentally clear in a gentler, steadier way. For older adults, this is a major advantage because the brain at this stage of life often does not respond well to overly intense stimulation. Beyond alertness, matcha also has real value when it comes to protecting cells. EGCG and the polyphenols in matcha help fight oxidative stress, the quiet process that gradually damages nerve cells and other sensitive tissues over time. This matters greatly when we are talking about memory, mental clarity, and information processing. The brain does not decline simply because it feels tired one day. It declines because over many years, its cells are exposed to too much oxidative stress, inflammation, and reduced circulation. Matcha cannot turn back time, but it can become part of a lifestyle that helps slow that wear and tear. What helps matcha rise above many other teas on this list is that its benefits are not limited to the brain. It also offers a meaningful advantage for the eyes. Matcha contains several carotenoids, including lutein, a compound that is frequently highlighted in vision nutrition, especially in relation to the retina. For older adults, that is no small detail. Many people begin to notice that their eyes no longer tolerate strain the way they once did. Reading for long periods becomes tiring, small print is harder to see, and the eyes take longer to adjust when moving between bright and dim environments. When one tea can support focus, help protect cells, and also provide nutrients that are relevant to eye health, it clearly offers a more comprehensive advantage. Some recent studies also suggest that matcha may have potential benefits for cognitive function, mood, and concentration, especially because of the combined action of caffeine, theanine, and antioxidants. What is worth noting is that matcha does not impress by making dramatic promises. It does not tell you that your memory will suddenly return or that your vision will become sharp again after just a few days. Its real value lies elsewhere. It is the kind of choice that, when used consistently and properly, can quietly help you stay mentally sharper, more focused, and more in control of your daily life. That is why matcha ranks number 1, not because it is magical, but because it brings together more beneficial qualities than anything else on this list. It supports alertness without being too harsh. It helps fight oxidative stress and protect cells. It offers a meaningful plus for vision. And most importantly, it represents a principle worth remembering in later life. Sometimes what helps you stay mentally sharp for longer is not the strongest short-term solution, but a smart, steady, and well-rounded habit that can stay with you for years. By this point, you have probably realized something very clearly. No tea is a miracle if you only drink it casually for a few days and then stop. What truly makes the difference is not just choosing the right tea, but turning it into a consistent habit that gives your body enough time to respond. For people over 60, improvement usually does not come in a dramatic way. It tends to arrive more quietly. The mind feels a little lighter in the morning, the eyes feel less tired during long reading sessions, and your energy feels steadier throughout the day. So instead of trying to drink as much as possible, choose one tea that suits your body best, drink it at a regular time each day, and stay with it long enough to notice the difference. Sometimes consistency itself is the most powerful active ingredient. After the age of 60, what matters most is not simply living longer, but still being clear-minded enough to remember the things you love, focused enough to manage your daily life, and able to see well enough to recognize the familiar faces around you. That is why caring for the brain and the eyes should not begin only after everything has already declined noticeably. It should begin with small, simple habits that are steady enough to stay with you every day. The 6 teas we talked about today are not medicines, and they certainly cannot replace medical care or treatment when needed. But they can be valuable companions, helping the body take in more antioxidants, supporting circulation, easing silent inflammation, and contributing to better alertness and visual function over time. Sometimes a positive change does not begin with something dramatic. It begins with one small choice, repeated long enough with sincerity and self-care. So I want to leave you with a very simple challenge. Over the next 7 days, choose one tea from today's list that feels like the best fit for you. Drink it at the same time each day and pay attention to how your body responds. Does your mind feel lighter? Do your eyes feel less strained? Does your energy feel more stable? After 7 days, come back and leave a comment telling me which tea you chose and how it felt for you. Your story might be exactly what inspires someone else to start taking better care of themselves today. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with an older loved one you truly care about. Sometimes one small share today can become a very meaningful change in someone's health in the years ahead.